Oh, yeah.
We were muted.
Hey, this was great.
So now we're doing the next workshop to discuss anarchist perspectives from Brazil and specifically struggles of around public transportation and public space in the USL in Brazil. We welcome Felipe to join us now for the second time. Or, back to
for the second time. Hello, Felipe. Hello.
And you just need to unmute both. Yeah, we are.
Tudo bem?
Tudo bem, meu querido.
And Victor, yeah. Welcome, guys.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
Hello. Thank you. Good night. Good evening, everyone.
And just see if I can put the presentation here, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let us know if you have trouble. Yes.
Great. Just 1 second. Is it okay?
Yes. Perfect.
Great. Just tell us when we can start, okay?
You're welcome to begin.
All right.
Ô, Felipe, alinha melhor. Se alinha aí na câmera, Felipe. Você não tá aparecendo por causa da borda. Isso. Vem pra direita.
Aqui assim?
Isso.
Ok. So, good evening, comrades. We are Felipe Corrêa and Victor Khaled from Brazil. We are members of the Institute for Anarchist Theory and History and the Libertarian Socialist Organization in Brazil. And today we have prepared a talk on anarchism and the struggle for zero transportation in Brazil. Okay, we will divide our presentation in 3 parts, and we will talk about anarchism and contemporary Brazilian anarchist struggles. And after, we will talk about transportation struggles and free fare. And finally, anarchism, class struggle, and transportation. Okay, so I will start with the first topic, saying that our conception of anarchism here in our presentation is based on my book, Black Flag, Rediscussing Anarchism, that is not translated into English yet. But on this book, basically, I make a critical review of the most influential literature on anarchism in Portuguese, English, Spanish, and French. And I make the identification of problems and gaps in the analysis, proposing a new theoretical methodological approach to redefine what is anarchism, its main debates and currents. Okay, basically what Black Flag does is to deal with some misconceptions about anarchism, sustained by the common sense, by adversaries and enemies of anarchism, but also by sympathetic authors, okay? And in my point of view, these misconceptions basically results from methodological problems, okay? Basically, this misconception says, as you may know, that anarchism is disorder, chaos, destruction, or anarchism is petit bourgeois ideology, idealistic, linked to the backward world, etc. And sympathetic authors have sustained that anarchism is synonym of anti-statism, struggle against authority, antithesis of Marxism, an incoherent doctrine, ended in 1939 with the end of the Spanish Revolution. Anarchism had little popular impact, competed with syndicalism, and a lot of other conclusions that we do not agree with, okay? In this book, I propose to consider anarchism as a libertarian, revolutionary, and socialist ideology or doctrine, and we have to be careful not to be confused when I talk about ideology with the idea of false consciousness that we see in the Marxian or Marxist thought, okay? And to consider ideology or doctrine, this set of thoughts and actions that emerge in the relationship between popular movements and theorists or thinkers. And anarchism, in this view, it's not fundamentally a way of reading reality, a theoretical methodological body, but a body of political ideological principles aimed at a revolutionary social transformation. So in the book, I sustain that there is some unity of principle among anarchists in the last 150 years in the whole world. Okay, and this conception is based basically on three axes. First one, the critique of domination. The second one, the defense of self-management. And the third one, a fundamental strategy. I will talk a bit about these three axes. Okay, first one, critique of domination. I'm talking about hierarchical relationship, command obedience relationship, with some people deciding what concerns to everyone. Domination is the basis of inequality and social injustice. And domination can have different forms. I put here the main class forms. I'm talking about labor exploitation, physical coercion, political bureaucratic domination, and cultural alienation. And domination can be class-based, but also, as we are discussing here, everyday domination can also be based in national basis. So when we talk on imperialism, colonialism, we're talking about national domination, but also we can talk about gender, sexual-based domination, ethnic or racial-based domination. And when we have this whole system of domination articulated, we can say that we live in a system of domination. And historically, anarchists criticized this kind of system and proposal the defense of self-management, or these antitheses of domination, or participation in decision-making process to the extent that one is affected by them. I'm talking about grassroots decisions and rotating delegation with grassroots control. Anarchists have proposed self-managed society, or the socialization of property, possibly combined with family property in rural areas, democratic self-government, what means political socialization, management by workers' associations, delegation in the model I told you, and self-managed culture, what is to create a new ethic, a new culture, some education, communication, leisure projects, and so on. And this generalization, that mode, could be called a system of self-management. But in the book, I also identify some fundamental strategy common to all anarchists, despite the great differences that existed. That is basically leaving the system of domination and arriving at the system of self-management, and establishing a set of ends and means, of objectives, of strategies, of tactics, and the subordination of means to ends. Basically, I consider that anarchists proposed to transform the capacity or the potential force of the oppressed classes into strength, social force, and with this to transform this force through a revolutionary process in some kind of power, self-managed power, okay, in the three spheres, or in economy and politics and culture, mobilizing in class struggle oppressed classes as a whole, or all kind of workers, urban, rural workers, peasants, precarious workers, marginalized, and others, poors in general. This strategy says that anarchists are against the conquest of positions in capitalism and the state, and against individual or sectoral mobility, and for social transformation, for social revolutionary socialist transformation. Anarchists have defended also self-management processes of struggles and the inevitably of a violent social revolution to transform the society. Okay, here you can see this strategy from the system of domination to the system of self-management, transforming labor exploitation into property socialization, transforming physical coercion and political bureaucratic domination into democratic self-government, transforming cultural alienation into self-managed culture, and a class society into a classless society. Ensure transforming national, gender, sexuality, race, ethnicity dominations into the end of domination at all levels. That's the anarchist historical projects, despite the different currents and despite the different strategies and so on. When we talk about the resurgence of Brazilian anarchism, we can say that despite the enormous strength that anarchism and syndicalism had in Brazil in the first decades of the 20th century, Brazilian anarchism was very weakened when the military coup took place in Brazil in 1964. Okay, unlike other Latin American countries as Argentina or Uruguay, where anarchists had a huge experience of struggling against the dictatorship with mass resistance and armed resistance. In Brazil, the process was different, and during the military dictatorship, repression practically eliminated anarchism in the country. So these resurgence in anarchism will take place only in the late 70s and the early 80s, with the gradual opening political process that anarchy started to reemerge more significantly. Okay, the 80s were the stage for this resurgence I'm talking to you. On the 80s, we saw the creation and or the reestablishment of anarchist publishing houses, newspapers, cultural centers, and also these first attempts after the dictatorship to reestablish union and community struggles. Okay, here I put two pictures. The first one, the Social Culture Center. It is an anarchist center funded in the 30s, but it was closed during the dictatorship, and after, in the 80s, it started to function again. And in the other picture, a newspaper published in the northeast of the country called The King's Enemy. It started to be published in the end of the 70s and continued to be published in the 80s. In red here, you can read American racism, kill black again. So it's denouncing the racism in America, like in the beginning of the 80s, and it's a complete actual issue. No. The 90s were years of consolidation for Brazilian, and important initiatives were carried out, such as the establishment of the so-called specificista anarchism in the country under the influence of the Uruguayan Anarchist Federation. I arrived in anarchism exactly in the end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000s, and I participated of these initiatives in the beginning of the 2000s. That initiatives where Brazilian anarchists played significant roles among other struggles. And I would mention People Global Action. Okay, so it was the Brazilian arm of the global resistance movement here. Brazilian Indie Media, I was part of both. And also anarchists had contributions to transportation struggle and the Free Fair movement. Khaled, that will talk after me, participated on both initiatives. Okay, so I put some pictures here. The first one, it was in 2000, a PGA mobilization in São Paulo, Brazil. And second one, our logo in Indie Media, Brazil. And after, to finish my part, two important initiatives on transportation movements and mobilizations. The first one, the Turnstile Revolt in Florianopolis, and the second one, the Free Fair movement in São Paulo. Comrade Khaled will talk to you now about these initiatives and will profound this discussion on transportation struggle, free fare, and after he will talk about our role as anarchists on these struggles. So thank you very much, comrades. I pass the word to Khaled. We'll continue the talk.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank you for the invitation, the event organizers, and the entire audience. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to participate in this event and speak about a topic that has moved me for 20 years. I began my political militance in the context Felipe mentioned earlier, the resurgence of Brazilian anarchism. I participated in the People Global Action mobilizations and, above all, the Free Fair movement. I began my journey in the movement shortly after its founding in 2005, and I remain a part of it to this day, as this is an issue that deeply moves me. To begin, I will talk a little about transportation struggle and free fare in transportation. Mobility issues have generated moments of unrest and popular revolt, not only in Brazil, but throughout Latin America. In this regard, the Free Fair movement stated that, like a ghost that haunts cities, leaving vivid marks on space and memory, popular revolts surrounding public transportation have plagued the history of Brazil metropolises since their inception. Next, please. To illustrate this, I have provided a few examples. I won't be able to go into detail due to time constraints, but I will show some of these moments, some of these uprisings to illustrate what I'm talking about. To begin, I will mention the Caracazo in Venezuela in 1989 and the Estallido Social in Chile in 2019. Two massive popular uprisings. Please back. Gigantic spontaneous revolts initially motivated by protests against increase in public transportation fares. Next, please. In Brazil, next slide. Yes. In Brazil, the first of these uprisings, still in 19th century, was the Vintém Revolt in Rio de Janeiro in 1879. Next, please. Other examples were the Bote Revolt in Niterói, in the metropolitan region of Rio de Janeiro in 1959. Next. And the Halfar strike in São Luís, in the northeast of the country in 1979. Next. More contemporary examples were the Buzu Revolt in Salvador in 2003 and the Turnstile Revolts in Florianopolis in 2004 and 2005. Which were fundamental to founding of the Free Fair movement. Next. Finally, in 2013, we had the June Journeys, a large-scale mobilization, a national uprising initiated by the struggle against the increase in public transportation fares, and which was the moment when the zero fare agenda was nationalized. In the next, please. In the early 2000s, this rich history of popular uprisings over transportation in Brazil gained an important element of organization and mobilization, the Movimento Passe Livre or Free Fair movement. As we saw, despite popular struggle and uprisings for public transportation in Brazil have existed since the 19th century, it was just in the early 2000s that this new element emerged, a social movement whose central agenda is the struggle for public transportation, the Free Fair movement. Founded in 2005, this movement began to coordinate a series of local collectives and became a major driving force and the protagonist of the mobilizations that brought public transportation to the forefront. Furthermore, this movement was central to the nationalization of the zero fare debate. Since then, the mobilizations around transportation ceased to be spontaneous and gained an element of organization promoted by the Free Fair movement. Here is a call from the Independent Media Center in the media from January 2005. The call for the national plenary to build a national movement for the Free Fair. In January 2005, during the 15th World Social Forum, the founding plenary session of the Free Fair movement defined the movement's charter, containing its principles and strategic perspectives. At the founding of the Free Fair movement, it was defined that the movement would be autonomous, independent, and not affiliated with political parties, although it does not oppose them. The movement also defined that the fight for student free fares is not an end in itself. It's the initial instrument for debate on transforming the current conception of urban public transportation, rejecting the market-driving approach to transportation, and opening the fight for free, high-quality public transportation for society as a whole, for public transportation outside of the private sector. By 2013, only 14 cities in Brazil had implemented zero fare in transportation. But the June journeys of 2013 contributed to nationalizing the debate and achievements in this field. This is an article from a major Brazilian newspaper, Estado de São Paulo, from 2023, shortly before the 2024 municipal elections, stating that the June journeys, those massive protests of June 2013, inspired the nationalization of zero fares, which promised to dominate the 2023 and 24 elections. The article states that this slogan of the free fare movement, which lit the fuse for the June 2013 demonstrations, which was zero fares, is now a reality in 72 cities across the country. In 2023, 3.2 million Brazilians didn't pay a dime when using the public transportation system. And the map of the adoption of the policy that makes the service free, as well as healthcare and education, included municipalities in 12 of Brazil's 27 states. Updating these numbers to September 2025, now, zero fare is a reality in 137 cities across the country. You see, in 2023, it was 72 cities, and today it's 137. In other words, just as the newspaper said, zero fare was indeed a very important point in the last municipal elections. Since then, it has expanded from 72 to 137 cities, and from 3.2 million to over 7 million Brazilians who don't have to pay to use the public transportation system. In other words, zero fare is a public policy that has truly gained fundamental importance. To understand why we say this agenda became nationalized in 2013, we need to remember that in that year, only 14 cities in Brazil had already implemented zero fare, and of them with fewer than 20,000 inhabitants. This was a very limited policy. Since 2013, following this social explosion of transportation uprisings, which had the free fare movement as a leading force, we have jumped from 14 to 137 seats. Repeating, we have jumped from 14 to 137 cities, and this number is only growing. Today, Brazil is the country with the largest number of cities and experience of zero fare public transportation in the world. This is thanks to the influence of the free fare movement and all the transportation struggles and uprisings it participated, especially the June protests of 2013. We must always keep in mind the history of the zero fare agenda being nationalized in June 2013. Until then, when these revolts, driven and led by the free fare movement, took to the streets, this was a very limited policy. Considering the current scenario of the zero fare campaign in Brazil, some issues can be highlighted. Basically, after two decades of construction and mobilization in the streets, the legacy is significant. This political process began in 2003 with the Buzu Revolt, and it exploded during the June journeys in 2013. It took the public transportation agenda out of bureaucrats' office and included a new actor in the discussion: public transportation users, the working class, with a certain anarchist role in the process. Since its founding, the free fare movement in Brazil has been deeply inspired by autonomous movements and had a very strong and important influence from anarchism. Today, the scenario is more complex. The right, in particular, tries to forget and hide the legacy of the movements and the streets, this history of struggle for transportation, of popular uprisings, and portrays the implementation of zero fare as something unrelated to this process. The traditional left was pressured to recognize the relevance of the free fare project. Fernando Haddad, mayor of São Paulo from the Workers' Party, compared in 2016 the free fare in transportation with free trips to Disney. He said that it was necessary a magician to promote this free fare. This year, if we see this article of another major Brazilian newspaper, Folha de São Paulo, it says that a Workers' Party congressman from Haddad's party is releasing a book about zero fare on public transportation. Curious fact: the book has a foreword by the current Minister of Economy, the same Haddad, who has been involved in the debates on the topic because President Lula asked him to prepare a study on a national policy for implementing zero fare. Look at all the change. A little over a decade ago, during the June protests, when the free fare movement brought the discussion and nationalized the zero fare campaign, Haddad compared it to free trips to Disney. He ridiculed the proposal in 2013 and 2016. And today he's delving into the issue, writing the foreword for a book defending zero fare. As I said, the results on that are clear, because today 137 cities and 7 million Brazilians don't pay for public transportation. They have the right to come and go, to move around, the right to go, the right to the city, guaranteed, thanks to this history of popular movements. This is a great victory. To conclude, because time is running out, I would like to make some observations on our role as anarchists in this struggle related to public transportation. Next. Our role as anarchists is to maintain the memory of these processes, such as the one taking place in Brazil, by remembering the role that popular movements and social struggles played in these achievements. It's also to highlight the relevance of the transportation agenda, zero fares, and the right to the city for workers today. It's important to remember that the segregation imposed by the current urban mobility model in Brazil and around the world has been and continues to be a major fuel for these struggles. As anarchists, it is essential that we understand the social problem and mobilize workers to build popular movements that raise this issue. it is our duty as anarchists to create and participate in these movements, and also to influence and contribute in an organized manner to their strategic lines. This means fighting for these movements to become mass movements and to assume a class struggle perspective, to be guided by combativeness, class independence, and direct action, to build on self-managed and federalist mechanisms, and to promote a true grassroots democracy, to adopt a transformative perspective, and to be capable of promoting unity between social movements and unions, and advancing to construction of effective self-managed popular power. I conclude here and hope to continue the discussion if there is time for questions. Thank you very much, and we remain at our disposal.
Hey, thanks so much.
Thank you very much, comrades.
Was wondering if you could compare this to, I know you mentioned what happened in Chile, but I was wondering if you could compare specifics historically with what happened in Chile in 2019.
Khaled, se puder falar um pouco sobre o que aconteceu no Chile com uma questão do transporte, pode falar em português e aí eu traduzo, tá bom? To answer in English and I will translate after, okay?
Yeah.
Tá, primeiro desculpa, né, eu não sou muito fluente no inglês, então prefiro responder as perguntas em português, tá? Sobre o Chile, em 2019, a gente teve um processo, né, imenso de massas, que é chamado de estalido social, que teve como estopim uma revolta contra o aumento nas tarifas do transporte público em Santiago, a capital do Chile, e esse protesto de rua, né, tomou as ruas primeiro de Santiago, depois de todo o país, novas bandeiras, né, apareceram, ele se massificou muito por conta da violência brutal dos carabineiros, da polícia, dos policiais chilenos, e teve como saldo, né, o reconhecimento da necessidade de criação de uma nova constituinte, né? Se iniciou o processo de rediscutir a Constituição do Chile, que é uma Constituição que foi herdada, né, da ditadura militar do general Pinochet. Então, os protestos tiveram essa magnitude, né?
Khaled is saying he's sorry because he's not so fluent in English, but he was talking that Chile in 2019 lived a huge mass process of mobilization. It was called the Estallido Social, and it started with a transportation protest that gained a mass character, mainly because in the process and the police contributed to this massification. Basically, Khaled has talked that it was really important because this process made the government to recognize all these claims made by popular movement, and these ended after that took place in the whole country, as you know. The process of Chile's last constitution design was made through the dictatorship of General Pinochet. And so this whole process that started with this transportation mobilization ended in an important rediscussion, a new constitution to the country. Is interesting between transportation issue and the whole revolt of 2019, and this pointing to the discussion of a new constitution.
It's similar with June journeys in Brazil, because the increase of transportation fares left a mass of population to the streets, and the police reagiu, como que é? The violence of the policies will
reacted, yeah.
And this will make the uprising a massive protest, both by the transportation initially.
Anybody got any questions?
I'm curious, why do you think this issue resonated? Why do you think transportation is the issue that, was something that people were willing to really fight for?
Did you hear that?
Por que o transporte... Por que o transporte é uma questão que mobiliza tanto? Por que você acha que ele engaja? Pode falar em português que eu traduzo.
Bom, vamos em português então. Essa é uma resposta complexa, né? Mas, em primeiro lugar, porque o transporte ele é um elemento transversal para o funcionamento das cidades, né? Então você só tem acesso à cultura, ao lazer, ao trabalho, à saúde, à educação, se você pudesse deslocar na cidade e chegar nos locais onde esses serviços são oferecidos, né? Então ele tem esse papel, né, de ser um elemento transversal para o funcionamento da cidade e para o acesso aos direitos sociais. Em segundo lugar, porque ele é muito precarizado, então a gente se acostuma, né, a uma situação, né, de usar um serviço que é precário, que é ruim e que é caro ao longo do tempo, vai naturalizando isso, mas esse ódio, né, essa revolta com essa situação vai sendo guardada, mas quando vem um aumento da tarifa, né, aí essa revolta explode, costuma explodir, né, tem essa tradição de explodir. E principalmente porque o transporte ele tem um custo muito alto no orçamento das famílias brasileiras e na América Latina, né? Por ser privatizado, por ser caro, ele consome uma fatia muito alta do nosso orçamento. Então é dinheiro da alimentação, né, de moradia, de roupas, de necessidades básicas, que acaba sendo gasto com algo que deveria ser um serviço público, que é um serviço público essencial, mas é pago, né? E aí isso gera uma revolta muito grande, porque mexe também na economia das cidades, principalmente dos mais pobres, que ou não podem se deslocar pela cidade, ficam presos, né, nos bairros por falta de dinheiro, ou que tem que despender grande parte do seu orçamento para fazer esses deslocamentos.
So Khaled is saying that this is not an easy answer, but he pointed some important things here. Okay, people in general mobilize through transportation because transportation is a transversal element to all public services in cities. So it's really important for people to use the public transportation to access public services, to access rights, to access the cities. So that we are normally accustomed to use a bad service and an expensive service. That's the situation. Real transportation is a bad transportation, but is also an expensive transportation. And from time to time, normally in the moment of increasing the price of the fare, people start to work with this mobilization. And this normally works because transportation has a huge impact in the budget of the families. It represents an important amount of money of the families. So normally it's something that helps us to mobilize people, to talk to people. Everybody use the public transportation. So this thing of quality, of price, and everything related to public transportation from time to time, it become mass mobilizations in Brazil. And sure, we are not talking that this is our priorities of achievement, but since we saw that in the United States people are discussing this project, we thought it would be important to share this period and to discuss that anarchism could contribute to these struggles, to this issue, and to help to build a popular movement, a project of popular power to these struggles and to these issues, and don't let this issue to be managed just by bureaucrats or the traditional left or by Democrats there and so on. So we have a role on these processes to radicalize them and to contribute to become part of a strategic project of building a new society.
Okay. I see. Thanks so much. That's all the time we have. Thank you, Felipe and Victor.
Thank you,
really
comrades.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Felipe, só por último, tem uma pergunta ali no chat sobre o que a gente acha da viabilidade da proposta em Nova York, só para dizer que sim, é 100% totalmente viável, possível, e que o único desafio aí é político, né? Só não existe transporte público gratuito porque ele é um mecanismo de controle social, porque as cidades são feitas para segregar. E quando você libera o transporte público, né, esse mecanismo de segregação deixa de funcionar, mas não existe nenhuma inviabilidade econômica.
E outra coisa é que o transporte...
Just giving the last Pode falar.
Não, desculpa.
Tá bom. Khaled is just saying that the New York project is possible to be implemented, but the challenge here is a political challenge, because normally it would be necessary to confront the segregation capitalist process, and also to work with this issue of a reform, as well as others, but to radicalize this struggle to build a project of transformation, taking in this issue and other complementary issues throughout the city of New York or even States. So thank you, comrades, and thank you for the space, and we see you.
We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.